The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
We got a doozy tonight in Vancouver, British Columbia. Rick Tocchet versus John Tortorella in a steel cage match. But before we get to that, it's Begsy versus Bowen here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer for Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the episode, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. It is your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, go make sure you subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to shout out FanDuel, okay? Make every moment more with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Coming up on today's episode, we got a game to talk about. Feels like it's been a while, and it'll be a while after this game. But it's not only the Vancouver Canucks versus the Philadelphia Flyers, but Rick Tocchet versus John Tortorella. So we'll have some fun talking about Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella themselves off the hop here. Who would win in a steel cage match, and also who's going to win the Jack Adams Award. In the second segment of the show, I want to talk a bit about Shaun Walker. So might not be known to all Canuck fans out there, but he is a right shot defenseman for the Philadelphia Flyers, having himself a damn good season. Could he potentially be a target for the Canucks via trade? We'll talk about that in segment 2. And finally, we'll end off the show with some predictions about tonight's game between the Vancouver Canucks and the Philadelphia Flyers. But first and foremost, let me introduce my co-host, someone who I'm pretty sure would beat me in a steel cage match. But I'll see what he thinks. Kyle Bound, how you doing, brother?
You know the rules of a steel cage match, right? Like if you escape the cage, you win. So if you're a quote unquote, I'm not going to say the word, it starts with a P, you can win the match, bro. It's like the same logic. If you're in a street fight, and I tell people this all the time, okay? Play the P card, okay? If you're in a street fight, you're not here to defend your honor. You're there to survive. Kick the person in the dick, okay? And escape. Anyways, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks. Man, oh man, we finally have a game, and I'm really excited to see what this team looks like after some practice, after some time off. I just heard Tocchet speak to the media. He alluded to everything I just said and then some. And I think we're going to see a quote-unquote new version of the Vancouver Canucks, because this team that's been winning a lot of games apparently has been making Tocchet sleep better at night, not just based on the results, but their demands to get better, okay? Apparently, a couple of these players are not satisfied with some of the games that they've won on this stretch, and I don't know if it's the truth or if they're just being drowned in all the PDO talk. Nonetheless, the Canucks are not content, okay? Before you get into this whole debate about Tocchet and Tortorella and the cage match and blah, 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 look at this quote from your captain, okay? Quinn Hughes talking about the record, 23-9-3. He's saying we haven't earned the right to just put our feet up and cruise into the playoffs. We haven't earned that because we haven't been there. Every game is a test for us, and that's the truth. The Canucks haven't done yet, for real.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, the moment the Canucks are satisfied with where they're at is the moment they probably start losing games. And I don't think it's hot air when the team's saying that, oh, we're not satisfied with some of our performances. Yeah, they've had a good month of December in the win column, but how many complete games have they played, right?
Exactly.
You can kind of go back through, and I think about, that Minnesota Wild game early in December where the Canucks were so bad in the first period. Casey Smith saves them. They end up winning 2-0. They started that Lightning game slow. Maybe the Panthers game you could call a complete game, but they still gave up 36 shots.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of go down further down the list, and it's like even that Blackhawks game, right? Canucks won 4-3, but they were so bad early on. So even though they're finding ways to win, and we've talked about it time and time again in the show throughout the month of December, good teams find ways to win when they're not playing at their best. But it does feel like there's been too many nights so far where the Vancouver Canucks haven't been at their best. But it's so funny with Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella meeting up tonight, because I was thinking earlier today that the way the Canucks are playing right now under Rick Tocchet, even though they've struggled to put together consistent 60-minute efforts, it feels like the way they're playing is how the team was supposed to play back in 2013-14 when John Tortorella was at the helm. Do you agree or disagree with that, Kyle?
Yeah, minus the block shots. I haven't looked at the numbers. Like maybe we are blocking a lot of shots, but I get what you're saying. Just play strong defensively and capitalize on your chances. It's really been the recipe for the Canucks post the middle of November, and it's got to change. And John Tortorella, man, can we just say this again? The worst coach in Canucks history. I don't care what, like, you don't, like,
no,
you don't, no. Okay, I know Willie D was horrible, like really, really bad. He sucked. But John Tortorella, we're talking about a guy who coached for the Vancouver Canucks, a team in Canada, yet he chose to live in America. I don't F with that, man. I wish this guy never first in his hockey career. And right now, that's the complete opposite. I mean, how did anyone see this coming? I mean, he was somewhat successful with Columbus post Vancouver, but to do this in Philadelphia, which seems like the perfect fit, to do the impossible because everyone thought this team was going to be a guaranteed lottery team, it's surprising. This all being said, like Elston just said, I think the Flyers are trash, man. A reality check is coming, and they're facing a rested Vancouver Canucks team that has superstars. Do the Flyers have superstars? Not yet. Not yet. It's just the truth.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? If you start diving into some of the numbers, by some statistical measures, Philly's been better than Vancouver, right? Which feels weird to say, but just looking at, again, expected goals, which, take for what you will, whether you love the fantasy stats, whether you don't love the fantasy stats. The Philadelphia Flyers are 7th overall in expected goals percentage at 52.6%. The Canucks are 22nd at 48.6%. Again, the Canucks lead the league in even strength goals. They've been incredibly opportunistic. I think they have the high-end finishing ability to, be one of the highest scoring teams at the end of the season. They are the highest scoring team right now, whereas Philly's a bit more of a blue-collar approach, for sure. I think one of the things about Philadelphia right now is that they are creating more than you'd think they would, right? A strong forechecking team under Tortorella. I don't think the quality is there, but quantity-wise, like they're getting their chances.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other end of the ice, when Elson talks about, reality check incoming for Philadelphia, goaltending's been really strong for them, right? That's one of the reasons why they've kind of been able to be one of the best teams in the league so far this season. Again, the Canucks goaltending ranks as the best. We talked about that. Every Dayers know it. And if you don't know it, go check out that episode that we dropped last week on the Canucks having the best goaltending duo in the NHL. But for Philadelphia, it's definitely their strong forechecking, the buy under Torch, and the goaltending is kind of their secret sauce so far. But do I think it's going to keep up? No, I don't think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to make the playoffs, but it would be a hell of a story, right? And let's say that they do make the playoffs, because again, Philly's probably sneaking in as a wildcard team. It becomes an interesting debate for the Jack Adams between Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella, because the Canucks were expected to be kind of a bubble playoff team. Now they're first overall in the NHL. So let's see, the season ends. The Vancouver Canucks are top 5, but the Philadelphia Flyers are also in the playoffs. So you're looking at the Canucks, who were supposed to be middle of the pack. Now they're one of the best. Philadelphia is supposed to be one of the worst, but they make the playoffs. I think that becomes a fascinating debate for the Jack Adams. But Kyle, maybe I'll throw it to you and say, between those two, based on what Tortorella's done in Philly, based on what Tocchet's done in Vancouver, how close do you think these two are for the Jack Adams right now?
No,
I know that they're two front runners.
They're 1 and 2, but I'm taking Tocchet because, bro, it's Locked On Canucks. It's the West Coast bias, the only thing produced on this program. And I just said it, yo. Screw John Tortorella. Worst coach in Canucks history. Worst coach. Now I'll say this. I want to say this because I talked about how the Philadelphia Flyers don't have superstars, blah, blah, blah. In an alternate universe, maybe the Vancouver Canucks are doing well and the Philadelphia Flyers are where they're supposed to be, AKA where they were projected to be, hence making a couple players available, right? Travis Sanheim, I think that's how you pronounce it. Or maybe the only superstar they have on their team. I know I just said they didn't have any, but dude, every time I watch Travis Konechny play, that guy is somebody you want in your top 6, and he would be a beautiful fit with Elias Pettersson. Just the truth. Now, these two coaches, Tocchet and Tortorella, a lot of cachet too. We're talking about Rick Tocchet. I'm not going to call him like a borderline Hall of Famer, but a really good player, a player who had his name retired or celebrated in Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it was a number retiree. I don't think so. I think he made the Flyers Hall of Fame. And then you have John Tortorella. The dude is, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer just based on the fact that he's won a Stanley Cup. He's got a lot of wins and he's just entertaining. Like both these guys have a lot of cachet outside of just being successful coaches this season. So it's going to make the conversation about the Jack Adams even bigger at the end of the year. And it's a trophy to me that really matters because these teams, I know the Canucks are stacked with superstars. We've been through this many times. Like, again, listening to this, if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan, you're lucky, you're blessed. Your team is stacked at the top, okay? That being said, both these teams are nowhere without that type of leadership that's coming from the coaching staff and the head coach in general.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think Rick Tocchet, again, he's done such a fantastic job in Vancouver so far this season. But yeah, John Tortorella, he's done some work over there. Man, it's crazy to think too that the Tortorella incident, January of 2024, was almost 10 years ago. Do you remember where you were with Tortorella? Yeah, against Calgary during the brawl.
Dude, I was watching the game at home. I went to Mirage right after. A bunch of people were talking about it. Honestly, it was the only bright spot of the season. It really was. So let's get to some comments before we get to the break. And also before we get to the question, like who would win in a cage match? We have Jack Maloney saying advanced stats don't matter. PDO can kiss my ass when we hoist the cup. Dude, I'm trying to think more like Jack, yo. I've been hanging out with nerds too much lately in the hockey community, AKA been hanging out way too much with Trevor Beggs. And now I'm a fancy stats dude. Bro, I'm going to take my calculator and shove it up your rear end. For real. That's just the truth. Tyler says, sup, what's up? Talking hockey, man. Talking about your first place Vancouver. I guess your second place Vancouver Canucks have a chance to get back to the top spot tonight. Beggsy, who wins in a steel cage match, though? Tortorella. I know he's a lot older.
It's 100% Rick Tocchet. It's Rick Tocchet. Come on. One of the most fiercest guys on the ice in NHL history.
Oh, is Tortorella a fake tough guy? He's a fake tough guy?
Well, I think John Tortorella is like, I'm not going to say he's like me, but he's definitely a smaller, scrappier guy, right? Mm-hmm. I don't doubt that John Tortorella could win his fair share of fights against the right opponent, but against Rick Tocchet, who's got an obvious size advantage, I'm gonna go on a limb and say Rick Tocchett's in much better shape than John Tortorella. You know, like Rick Tocchet.
Are you calling John Tortorella fat? You're calling Tortorella fat?
No, I think just John Tortorella's kind of, you know, he's not want to show off the guns, you know. In fact, he's not even showing off the suit anymore. He hides behind a freaking jacket in half these games he's coaching. So I don't think John Tortorella's got the body swagger that Rick Tocchet has. He's not doing 17 chin-ups to motivate the team. So I think Rick Tocchet and John Tortorella for the Jack Adams, that's close debate. But who wins in the steel cage match? Come on, man, it's easily Rick Tocchet.
Dude, who wins in a steel cage match? You or I? Let's be serious about this, okay? I know we don't hate each other. We're both 5'3", 5'4", around that height. Honestly, man, I was thinking about this the other day. You're way more of a man than me, okay? Yeah, I go to the gym and whatnot, but I feel as if I haven't reached that point where I've gained man strength. And you have 2 children. You know, you have a wife. I feel as if you're a little bit more handy. I know you're barely a handy man, but you're a little bit more handy, and you have that like grip, you know, that man strength. So you would kick my ass, and that would be cool. I'd be cool with that because I want you to win in life.
Thanks, buddy. I would favor you for a number of reasons. You got the size, you got the strength on me for sure. The only thing that worries me is that you say you've never been in a fight, right?
I've been punched in the face a couple times, but never been in a fight.
Yeah, so that concerns me. Let us know in the comments between 5'3" Beggsy or 5'4" Kyle Bowden who would win in a steel cage match. On the other side, a guy who would probably kick both our asses would be Shaun Walker. And he's kicking some ass this season for the Philadelphia Flyers. And I want to ask the question, with the Canucks, you know, reportedly still looking for a defenseman, I don't think that's a big secret. Could Shaun Walker be a target for them? We're going to discuss that on the other side. But before we do that, I got to shout out Sleeper. Okay. It's about the halfway point of the NHL season, almost there. And you know, Canucks fans, it's been a wild ride so far, and for the better, okay? So, but regardless of where we are at the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, okay? The Canucks can't get cocky, and you can't get cocky, okay? Just go to Sleeper and make the right picks, okay? Sleeper is the daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, and guess what? It's also my number one choice for daily fantasy sports, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Ian Cole, Nikita Zadorov, or Thatcher Demko will record more or less than the sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Okay, you're back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. More importantly, this is the show, though, that gives you only that West Coast bias, man, for real. I got to get West Coast bias tattooed on my butt cheeks, okay? It's okay, because nobody's going to see it, you know? Nobody's going to see it, so I'm down to get that, because I'm always sitting on that West Coast bias, man. It matters, man. You got to look after your neighbors, and right now the Vancouver Canucks are doing the most for us, doing more than we expected this season, aka in the moment. And a reason I think why we're a bit more jolly this season, not just because it's December. Trust me, the biggest reason why you're feeling the way you are is because your hockey team is doing good. And this escapism for the first time in a long time is more than worth it, delivering a lot to your spirit. Speaking of delivering a lot to your spirit, we got some good news today, okay? Carson Soucy back at practice, the extra skater on the ice, and he's not playing tonight, but I guarantee he's playing against your wife's favorite team, the Senators, in what, 4 days? 5 days? I don't know the math, but he's coming back very soon.
Yeah, and that makes this whole will the Canucks acquire another defenseman debate pretty interesting, right? And I do think if the Canucks are targeting a defenseman, and I fully believe they are, especially on that right side, I do wonder if Shaun Walker could be a target now. Let's talk a bit about Shaun Walker. So he was part of that trade to Philadelphia in the offseason when we all thought they were going to be the worst team in the NHL. Philadelphia basically took on Shaun Walker, Cal Peterson, and received a few draft picks, and then made a trade with LA. That allowed LA to clear cap space in order to sign Pierre-Luc Dubois. So Shaun Walker was a bit of a throw-in, but lo and behold, he's been the best defenseman on the Philadelphia Flyers so far this season. The guy is averaging over 20 minutes a night when he was, previously averaging, I think his career average is just a shade over 17 minutes. So he's gone from being basically a bottom pairing defenseman to a solid top 4 rock in Philly. And I'm just looking at his athletic player card right now. His market value is $6.2 million.
Whoa.
And again, he's his contract right now pays him about 2.65. So he's delivering more than double what his contract's actually worth. He's been an absolute rock on the PK for Philadelphia, again, playing that right side. His PK numbers are in like the top, like the 98th percentile of all NHL defensemen. The goals against, expected goals against, Corsi against, all extremely low at 4 and 5. So Shaun Walker, again, kind of a physical defenseman, but smaller, right? He's 5'11", about 200 pounds. Again, he intrigues me if the price is right. Like if the Canucks could get Shaun Walker for a second round pick, I'd be intrigued by that. That being said, on the flip side, Philadelphia's in a playoff spot. Do they really want to move this guy? Kyle, maybe I'll throw it back to you. I don't know how much you know about Shaun Walker, but yeah, we talked about it. His defense is getting a little bit crowded now. They've acquired Zadorov. What are your thoughts on the Canucks sending out a second round pick for a guy like Shaun Walker?
He's a UFA, correct? His contract ends?
Yeah, last year of his contract.
Based on what you just told me, I don't like that. I don't want no rentals. No rentals. I don't like it. Now, a second round pick, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I feel as if we've kind of paid our rental quota already this season with the Zadorov trade. Now, I know we traded a 14-year-old in that trade. It doesn't really matter, but you get what I'm saying? Is there a world where the Vancouver Canucks trade for a guy like Walker, who, again, he sounds appealing to me. He sounds like he's doing it, really doing it. A solid defenseman, a big step above a guy like Tyler Myers, right? He's actually a good hockey player. Do you think the Canucks are in a position to think about next year and the year after that and the year after that, AKA add to the blue line for the future? And is he a guy that you trade a second round pick for and extend ASAP? Now, you're looking at the player card, you're seeing a number like 6. That's not going to happen. But do they circle back at replacing guys like Zadorov, Myers, guys that are going to come off the book and sign defensemen for $4.5 million, $4 million in that range this offseason? Is he one of those guys? Because Tom Willander, I don't think he's coming next season. So there's going to be spots available.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I again, you look at the right side of the Canucks blue line and they need some help, right? Tyler Myers is expiring. He's really your only other right shot guy even in the lineup right now. And then it's like Friedman, Juleson. So the Canucks need help there. So for me, if you could acquire Shaun Walker at the right price and looking at an extension, I think something similar to the Chris Tanev deal when he signed with Calgary in that like 4-year, $4.5 million range. All kind of theoretical stuff here, but that would be something that would intrigue me about Shaun Walker. And he's definitely a guy I'm going to have my eye on more closely tonight, see how he performs against the Canucks here. But yeah, there's not a lot of right shot defensemen out there. So it makes me think if they trade him, was going to want a first, which I don't think I would do if I was the Vancouver Canucks.
No way.
Yeah, he's a guy to keep your eye on for Canucks fans. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Canucks are not in the market for rental players. I know they're stacked and this season feels magical, but like Quinn Hughes says, they've never even been there before, AKA the real playoffs, this core, and they have a lot to learn. And I think before they act like contenders, AKA go all in on multiple rentals, they have to get to the playoffs first and kind of experience that. It's not the move right now, man. It really isn't. Now, Philadelphia, on the other hand, we've trashed them before, right? A couple minutes ago, I said that they don't have any stars. They don't have no superstars. This is a hardworking team. They're coached the right way. They're bought in. They might squeak into the playoffs. They might do their thing. Heck, they might even win a round. But if you don't have superstars, you're not winning the Stanley Cup. So this team goes into the trade deadline. They don't have superstars, AKA they need more picks. They want more assets. They want to draft. They want to develop. I could definitely see this team, even if they're in position to still continue their success, give up on a UFA. So this guy could be available. Yo, when he said this, I didn't believe it. Now, is there a world, think about this, is there a world where the Vancouver Canucks trade assets for defensemen like Walker and then flip Tyler Myers right away? Because why do you want, carrying 7 defense, I don't know, man, having that, I know you got to do it, but I think that if you have guys like Friedman and Juleson, they can get to a Myers level, AKA be that 7th defenseman for you, and maybe you can get some assets for Myers. Is that possible? Because I know we trash Myers a lot, but can you get a 4th for him? Can you get a 3rd for him?
Ooh, at that cap it, I don't think so. Unfortunately. Now,
even if you're retaining I guess this team can't even retain because they're right up to the cap. Damn, for a year.
Yeah, it'd be a tough situation. Maybe there's a world where you retain 50% on Myers, you acquire a guy like Shaun Walker. I'm still skeptical. I mean, I do think there are old hockey heads out there who do think Myers is still a good defenseman, and he has been better this season. That being said, I think we're probably asking for a bit much if that's the move. But to your point, Kyle, I think if the Canucks could do something like that, I'd be incredibly intrigued. If you flip Myers for a 4th round pick, retain 50%, and then trade a 2nd for Shaun Walker, now I think that's something that's kind of spicy and that would really improve this Canucks team.
Yeah, you definitely improve the bottom of this team. And speaking of the bottom of this team, I mean, go back 12 months ago, go back 15 months ago, there were a lot of bad hockey players on this team, bad NHL players. And I feel as if now we're in a point where the Vancouver Canucks really only have 1 or 2, and it's Noah Juleson and I know Tyler Myers is doing better, but I'm talking about, when I say bad hockey players, I'm talking about players that are susceptible to multiple mistakes a game. And if Myers is playing 17 minutes a game, he's going to make 1 or 2 gaffes that might burn you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to not only the end of this season and what's going to happen in the second half. There's still a lot of room to grow here, a lot of room for us to get better, which makes us dangerous. But just going into next season, what Alvin and Rutherford are doing, I think they had one message on their board that was really clear. And it was make sure every guy in this roster is actually good. is actually smart, is actually poised, is actually calm. Like there's what's the word? A standard. And I don't know if Tyler Myers fits that build.
Yeah, I don't think he does, but I think he will probably be a Canuck for the rest of his contract. But, that's not going to matter because the Canucks are winning the cup anyways, baby. Let's go.
Okay. Let's go. I like it. Let's win the cup, man. We had one comment from the homie Duck, okay? Have you ever eaten duck before, bro?
Oh, all the time. I love duck.
I hate duck, man. Okay, if the Canucks were to go all in this year, we should probably trade for a top 4 D-man if there's one available. Yo, this guy's on your boat, man. This guy's already ordered the Shaun Walker jersey. Is that his name? Shaun Walker?
Shaun Walker.
Peter Parker? Okay.
Something like that. Like I said, keep your eye on Shaun Walker tonight, and stay posted here while we wrap up the show. On the other side, a little pregame prophecy, and Kyle, maybe you have a couple other notes about the game tonight. But before we do that, I gotta shout out FanDuel, all right? Okay, FanDuel, baby. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Thursday Night Football tonight. It's the last Thursday Night Football of the season. I know people are, they love Thursday Night Football, right, Kyle? But you got Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns versus the New York Jets tonight. Come on, pick the Cleveland Browns to cover, man. Joe Flacco, one of the best almost 40-year-old quarterbacks of all time. Whether you're betting on the Browns, Jets, or another NFL team, make sure you go do so on FanDuel. The app is so damn easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, overs, unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Okay, we back on Locked On Canucks. My name again is Kyle Bowen, the Hindu on the program, and then we got Trevor Beggs on the other side, the Irishman, okay? AKA the true Canadian warrior. This guy's a maple leaf tattoo on your arm again, right? That Celtic warrior maple leaf tattoo. Dude, that thing is hard, man.
Thanks, buddy.
You could be a Canadian. You're kind of lagging right now, but you could definitely be a Canadian porn star in an alternate universe with that tattoo. Everyone would be like, yo, you're that guy. You're that guy, yo. You're my favorite.
That's something else, man. There you go. It's funny that you say that. You reminded me to tell you that my wife recently has been calling you my second wife. So apparently you're my second wife according to Hannah. So she's like, say hi to your second wife for me. So hi, bro.
There you go, man. I'm proud to be your hockey wife. Anyways, we got duck again. I don't like to eat duck. Not my favorite meal. A lot of Fijian Hindus like to cook this stuff in a curry. Not my favorite. But he says, let's go all in this year, which makes sense. Don't get me wrong. But I think that the Canucks need a little bit more experience before they go really all in. And if they're going to flip assets in the first 2 rounds, you got to make sure that the player getting is either a top 4 D-man for sure. Now, Shaun Walker might be that guy, or a legit top 6 forward. Like, go in for not just like a maybe top caliber player. Like, go in for a legit quote unquote poor man superstar. You get what I'm saying? And save those assets for those types of moves. Because maybe the guy you draft in the second round this year can be moved next year after this team's picked up some experience and all that stuff for, again, a bigger prize. But here I am not thinking about the moment, man. I'm not thinking about the damn moment, bro. Speaking of the moment, tonight, Philadelphia in town. Do you know the lore around Philadelphia always playing the Canucks at the end of December or in early January? Like, why does that always happen? Because it always does happen. I think the schedule
makers, I kind of think the schedule makers just get lazy sometimes, right? It's easy enough to just kind of repeat old schedule tactics or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, tonight, it's funny. I was going to talk a bit about Carter Hart, who's played really well against the Vancouver Canucks, but actually it's going to be the battle of the backups tonight. It looks like it's been confirmed that Casey DeSmith is going to start for the Vancouver Canucks. Interesting choice, considering that this is the Canucks' only game within like an 8-9 day stretch, right? A couple days off before Christmas, few days off after this game. So a long break here for Thatcher Demko. But it'll be Casey DeSmith versus Samuel Ersson. Now, Samuel Ersson, has been either lights out or he's letting a lot of goals. He kind of reminded me a bit of Mike Smith with his stats here. An .899 save percentage on the season, but quality starts in 61% of his starts. So yeah, been a bit all over the place for sure. He's got a couple shutouts, but a couple games where he's letting a lot of goals. But the guy seems to win. Like he's only lost one regulation game in his last 10 starts. So whether he's playing well or not, he seems to put up some points now. For my pregame prophecy for tonight, I'm seeing the Canucks are winning 4-3 in overtime. I think Philly is going to play Vancouver close. I don't think it's going to be another blowout game here. I think we're going to get to overtime, and that the Canucks are going to control the puck in overtime and make fans forget about that Stars overtime debacle from last week. So I'm predicting a 4-3 overtime win for your Vancouver Canucks. And I'm going to go with JT Miller getting the overtime winner because overtime stretches this guy out, but once in a while, he's got to score to feel good about overtime.
I don't think JT Miller has scored in 7 games or something, if I'm correct on that. I just think the superstars are going to come out to fly today, like for real. They're going to really go all out, and I think the Canucks are going to put a bit of a revenge performance on display for the people at Rogers Arena, and we're beating the Flyers 7-2. 7-2. Because remember what John Tortorella did to us, okay? He thought it was okay to be head coach of one of the greatest franchises in the NHL, okay? I know we don't have a cup and whatnot, but, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks, a team in Canada, and this guy's like, you know what? I'm going to live in America and coach this team. F out of here, man. Revenge game. And remember, we did lose to the Flyers early on in the season. It was a really, really pathetic performance, one that kind of scared me. So yeah, let's avenge. Is that the word? That performance from months and months and months ago. Keep an eye on the superstars. And if we do see a high display of excellence from that top end of talent from this team, the Hughes, Hroneks, the Bessers, the Millers, Kuzmenkos, Petterssons, etc., like what we saw in October and November, remember that is such a huge piece of the puzzle that has been missing in recent history. But in that time, we've won a lot of games, and that's because the bottom has gotten way better. And I want to see both hit at the same time to see the ultimate version of this Vancouver Canucks, because I think we're going to shove this whole PDO narrative. We've been saying it a lot. This is pretty much turning into a porn podcast, but because that's going to stop, man. The Vancouver Canucks are an elite team. They really are. And the second half of the season somewhat starts today, and I think we're going to change the narrative really quick.
I love it. We're going to change the narrative real quick, and we're also going to get out of here because it's time to wrap up. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show. We love each and every one of you. Man, the subscribers, I'm feeling the love, man. It's honestly been one of my highlights of 2023 has been doing this podcast with my brother Kyle.
Love.
But for all the people that have subscribed to the channel, I think when we took over Locked On Canucks, there were 330 subscribers, and now I think we got like 1,330. So almost 1,000 new subscribers on the nose.
Dude, man,
been a lot of fun.
I'm ready to sign some tits, bro. I feel like a celebrity, bro. If I see you at the arena, okay, I'm going to a game at the end of January or sometime in January. If I see you at the arena and you want your tits signed, I got you. Males only though, because I got a girl. Okay, I'm loyal. Yeah, I'll sign your tits. All right,
yeah. Well, I think we got the viewership metrics on our page. I think it's on YouTube. It's like 94 or 96% of our listeners are male. Surprise, baby. But yeah, come on, all listeners, we love each and every one of you. On Friday's show, we're going to talk about this Canucks Flyers game, and depending on how much there is to talk about, we might get into some other stuff as well. Canada, Sweden with the big World Juniors game. Sweden right now wrapping up a World Juniors game against Germany, so I'll have to catch up on the highlights there. And I'm also kind of want to talk about maybe a little bit of World Cup projections. Which Canucks can make the World Cup? I know there's a World Cup projected to take place in February 2025. How many Canucks could be there? Find out on another episode of Locked On Canucks. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowen, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks. Go Canucks, go!
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.